nating tingnan to bilang issue ng mass media. Tingnan natin ang kabuuan na kung saan ang oligarkiya ay tinutulak ang kanilang interes sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng mass media para po sa katulad nitong negosyo ng pagtaas ng ating kuryente. Nananawagan din po ako sa inyo, Congressman Zarate, na lawakan natin ang ating pananaw sa pagtalakay ng issue ng ABS CBN. Ako po'y naniniwala na nakikita ninyo ang maraming mga issue na bumabalot sa ating lipunan at isa sa inyong mga pinaglalaban ay ang pagtigil ng malalaking interes, ang pagtigil ng mga interes na nakakasama sa ating pangkalatang sambayanan. At kailangan po sana, Mr. Chairman, Congressman Zarate, katulad po ng aking sinabi, nung nahuling hearing.
Vice Chairman Defensor, sa susunod na linggo po, Wednesday, 1 p.m. ay magkakaroon tayo ng pagpapatuloy ng hearing natin sa usapin po ng Meralco at ng iba't iba pang power concessionaires. Una, kung paano mapapababa yung singil. Pangalawa, kung paano maaayos yung sistema ng paniningil. At papayagan po kita na
Mr. Chairman,
ibukas ang usapin, ang mas malalim na usapin tungkol sa history ng Meralco mula pa nung panahon ng mga Lopez hanggang po sa pagkakalipat sa bagong ng mga nagmamay-ari po at nagmamanage po nito.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, my manifestation,
Vice Chairman Defensor.
My manifestation is my time. This is a summation, and we have already given the time of summation to the other members of this committee. My manifestation is my time, and I particularly raise an issue on political bias. I'm not going out of hand, Mr. Chairman, because precisely Meralco was owned by the Lopez, FGP was owned by the Lopezes, FGPC, or the First Gas Power Corporation, is owned by the Lopezes. And I'm saying, and I'm putting the connection of ABS CBN as a mass media corporation connected to these businesses. And so, Mr. Chairman, I'm not talking of any other business. If I am raising a manifestation based on these points on political biases, then I will say it, Mr. Chairman. Because history, if ever we vote to kill this franchise, would show that there are violations of the constitutions and laws of this country. But more importantly, Mr. Chairman, that we did service to our country, to the future of this nation, by killing another oligarchy. And that is my point, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Mike Defensor, maraming salamat sa napakagandang punto. At both chairman of this joint committees ay mataas po ang pagtingin, lalong-lalo na sa mga bagay na isiniwalat mo ngayong araw na ito. At maganda rin po na narinig ng ating mga kababayan. At sabi ko nga po sa iyo, katulad po ng sinabi ko sa iyo kanina, bibigyan kita ng mas mahabang oras tungkol sa usaping ito sa pagdinig po natin sa Wednesday. At para po sa ating mga tagapanood ngayong araw na ito, kayo po ay inaanyayahan namin sa magiging hearing patungkol sa Meralco. At marami pa pong sasabihin at mas malalim pang talakayan kagaya po nito ang ating mapapakinggan sa ating mga kasama na kongresista at isa na po doon si Vice Chairman Mike Defensor. Vice Chairman Mike, tapos na ba ang iyong manifestation o ipagpapatuloy mo pa ang iyong
Mr.
manifestation?
Chairman, 3 more slides. Actually po, 3 slides na lang po, tapos na po ako.
You may continue, Vice Chairman Defensor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next slide, please. Sige po, Mr. Chairman, i-summarize ko lang po dun sa, yan. Kung makikita nyo po, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, nagsimula po ito ng 2010. Ang pong guaranteed na kailangan natin bilhin ay 14 billion 295 million kilowatt hours at 63 billion 574 million. Noong 2015 po, 89 billion 994 million. Next slide, please. Mr. Chairman, ito po ang pangkalatang binabayaran ng 2011, 2012, 2013. Again, it's 55 billion 360 million for First Gas Power Corporation and FGP, 2011, 2012, 2013. Next slide, please. Mr. Chairman, I will just end my manifestation. Inuulit ko po, ang nagsalita po tayo ng political bias hindi para sa personal na ating pananaw. Pag nagsalita tayo ng bias, tinitingnan natin ang malawakang impluensya ng mass media sa kanilang negosyo. Totoo, sa sitwasyon natin ngayon, maraming negosyante kinokontrol ang politika. Pero ibibigay mo pa ang pagkontrol ng mass media para itulak ang agenda at interes ng malalaking negosyante. That, Mr. Chairman, I will not allow. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Kong Defensor. Ang sunod po na magbibigay ng kanyang manifestation ay si Congressman Mark Go. Congressman Go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, Congressman Franz Alvarez of the Committee on Legislative Franchises, Mr. Chairman Jonathan Alvarado of the Committee on Good Government and Public Accountability, honorable members of this august body, our friends from ABS CBN, fellow sponsors, friends, ladies and gentlemen, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Let it be known that in the issue of granting ABS CBN a new franchise, those bearing the brunt of the commotion surrounding it are not limited to the Lopezes or the Katigbaks or the network's roster of celebrities. Those who undoubtedly suffer from the lack of decisive action on ABS CBN's authorization to operate, apart from the 11,071 workers and their families who stand to lose their livelihood in this pandemic, are the Filipino people. After having been present in all the 12 hearings on the franchise, having listened to the allegations forwarded by my honorable colleagues in Congress, my position remains that the franchise of ABS CBN be swiftly granted. The issue surrounding ABS CBN's franchise is ultimately an issue of public service and the national economy. As the largest broadcasting network in the country, ABS CBN has undoubtedly been at the forefront of providing genuine public service to the Filipino people. When ABS CBN's free television and radio broadcasts were shut down, many Filipinos in remote areas and less privileged communities lost their only source of information and entertainment. Vital, especially in today's times as we deal with the physical and psychological effects of the pandemic and the community quarantine. Over the years, ABS CBN has served as a primary source of information in times of natural calamities, terror attacks, and public health crises. The network has always been at the forefront of mobilizing Filipinos in soliciting donations and joining relief operations during challenging times. As ABS-CBN's free broadcasts were ordered to be closed, we lost one of the biggest partners in communicating to Filipinos not only public health and safety measures, but also our national policies, guidelines, and plans of action in this fight against COVID-19. In a world where disinformation has become prevalent and information and knowledge sharing is crucial in transitioning to a new normal, are we choosing to leave behind in darkness the many Filipinos from far-flung areas reached only by broadcast signals of ABS-CBN? Are we going to leave households vulnerable to the wrath of natural and public health calamities? For 60 years, ABS-CBN has not wavered in providing public service to the Filipino people. And to deny ABS-CBN a new franchise in these times is to deny the public of this renowned brand of public service when they need it most. As much as their public service creates a significant impact on the Filipino people, ABS CBN is also a large contributor and driver of our national economy. In the last couple of months, we witnessed industries and global companies shut and/or reduce their operations, leave the country, such as Honda, Philippines, Nokia, and Wells Fargo, and other enterprises, leaving behind thousands of Filipino workers without jobs to support themselves and their families in this crisis. Our local airline industry took a massive hit when we closed our local and international borders. Soon after, Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific, Air Asia, and One Aviation Ground Handling announced the retrenchment of thousands of their workers. Last April, our unemployment rate spiked at an all-time high of 17.7%, or 7.3 million Filipinos, all left without jobs and at the mercy of the wrath of this pandemic, not including thousands of returning OFWs. As ABS CBN is the largest employer in the country's media and entertainment industry and is committed to the care and well-being of its workers, especially amid this crisis, why should we actively choose to cut the livelihood of 11,071 employees, talents, and service providers? It is a disservice to the interest of the Filipino people that we, the representatives who sworn an oath of public service, add to the rising toll of the unemployed and underemployed. We have more 11 million Filipino workers and their families who are asking that we allow them to continue in using their craft for nation building as taxpayers, as contributors to national productivity, as a source of Filipino pride. It was adequately shown during our hearings that ABS CBN has been duly paying its obligations to the government. According to the BIR representative, ABS CBN has paid more than 15 billion in taxes from 2016 to 2019 alone. The company has consistently been issued a tax clearance by the BIR, showing that it has duly paid its taxes. This is what we forgo. If we choose not to grant ABS CBN a new franchise. We have a ballooning debt. Our economy needs to recover from the prolonged quarantine, and we need all the help we can get in order to support the programs of this administration, not only in combating COVID-19, but in all its future programs as well. By no means am I alleging that ABS CBN is a perfect or a flawless company. Perhaps there is not any. I have done my part to listen to the different sides presented in this hearing in the spirit of fairness. Ultimately, however, the court is the proper forum to resolve if there is merit in the allegations thrown at the corporation. Thus, I implore my honorable colleagues to grant ABS CBN a new franchise. Let us allow the company to partner with us in serving the Filipino people. Let us allow the company to correct its mistakes and hold them accountable should there be a clear finding of any violation of the relevant laws. Let us save the 11,071 Filipino workers and their families whose security is now hanging by a thread. When we grant ABS CBN a new franchise, we work towards the interests of public service and the country's economy. Marami pong salamat at magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat.
Maraming salamat, Congressman Go. Susunod po na magbibigay ng kanyang manifestation ay si Congressman PD Barsaga.
Kailangan po, mapunta kayo. Naka-unmute na po ko.
Kong PD.
Magandang hapon sa ating mga kasama. Una-una, sa aking pananaw, ang malayang pamamahayag o press freedom ay hindi issue sa ating renewal. Alam ng bawat isa sa atin na itinatadhana ng ating saligang batas ang karapatan for press freedom. At alam din ng bawat isa sa atin na base sa saligang batas, binibigyan din ng karapatan ang Kongreso ng Republika ng Pilipinas whether to approve or not to approve any franchise application including mass media. Kung sasabihin natin na magkakaroon ng paglabag ng malayang pamamahayag kung hindi natin a-aproban ang prangkisa na ina-apply sa atin, then our constitutional right and obligation to act on franchise application, which is exclusive to the House of Representatives, is meaningless, it would be useless, it would be merely illusory. Kaya sa aking tingin, hindi issue ang press freedom sa renewal o sa denial ng franchise ng ABS CBN. Sa ating mga paghihiring, nakita natin ang ABS Holdings Corporation. Ditong lahat nilalagak ang mga shares of stocks ng ABS CBN Corporation na umabot sa daang-daang milyong shares of stocks at PDR. Ngunit mula noong 1999 hanggang sa kasalukuyan, inamin ng accountant ng ABS CBN Holdings Corporation na wala silang opisina, na wala silang full-time employee, at higit sa lahat, bagamat sila kung minsan ay mayroong net loss, mayroong mga milyong operating expenses, daang-daang milyong interest income, ngunit wala silang net income. Every year, wala silang binabayad na taxes. Nakita rin natin ang Big Dipper na kung saan ito ay PESA registered, nagkakaroon ng pre-importation, nagkakaroon ng mga malalaking income, ngunit tax exempt sa PESA. Sinabi rin ng mga kinatawan ng ABS-CBN na kung sakasakaling meron silang hindi nabayarang buwis at magkakaroon ng assessment ang Bureau of Internal Revenue, they have the right to protest, at kung kinakailangan, pwede silang makicompromise sapagkat ito ay isang karapatan na itinatadhana ng National Internal Revenue Code. Sa madaling sabi, ang lagi nilang sinasabi, tax avoidance ang aming ginagawa, at kung anumang karapatan ang aming ginagawa na hakbang, ito ay inaalaw o pinagbibigyan o hinahayaan ng ating mga batas. Narinig din natin ang mga hinaing ng mga empleyado ng ABS-CBN. Katulad ni Weng Hidalgo, magpapile sila ng kaso, magpapile sa labor arbitration, aabutin ng taon. Kapag sila ay nanalo o natalo, dadalhin sa National Labor Relations Commission, dadalhin sa Court of Appeals, and finally sa Korte Suprema. Umaabot ng 15 taon. At ang laging sinasabi ng ABS-CBN, that is our right. The right to contest the case filed against us from labor arbitration up to the Supreme Court. At sa usapin naman ng taxes, ang inihing ng pamayan. Ang lagi nilang sinasabi, kung PD, pag taxes ang pinag-uusapan, alam nyo naman na kaming salaried employees, 15 at katapusan, automatic ang pagtatanggal ng aming withholding tax. Pero pagdating naman sa malalaking korporasyon, nakikita namin, base sa inyong investigasyon at pahayag, na hindi sila nagbabayad ng tamang buwis. Bilang isang manananggol, lagi naming sinasabi at laging pinapaalala sa akin ng ating mga magagaling na hukom, not everything licit is honorable. Hindi lahat ng hinahayaan ng batas ay marangal. We have the so-called corporate social responsibility. Meron din tayong ethical and moral considerations. Ngunit sa bilyong-bilyong kita ng ABS CBN, bagamat sila ay may tax avoidance, bagamat ang kanilang ginagawa sa apelasyon ng kanilang mga empleyado o sa protest sa Bureau of Internal Revenue ay tinatadhana ng ating batas, I think the bigger issue would be the social and moral considerations of a big corporation like ABS CBN Corporation tungkol sa kanilang pamamalakad para sa kapakanan ng bansang Pilipinas. Munti pa akong bata, naalala ko ang slogan ng isa sa pinakapopular na pangulo ng ating bansa, si Ramon Magsaysay. Ang sabi niya, those who have blessed in life should have more in law. Ngunit sa nakikita ng ating mga kababayan, ang kanilang laging sinasabi sa akin, kung PD sa ngayon, those who have less in life also have less in law. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
Paki-unmute po, Kong Bebot.
Okay. Am I heard already, Mr. Chairman?
Okay na po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to all of us who are into these proceedings now. Mr. Chairman, before the Committee on Legislative Franchises subjects the issue to a vote, with the indulgence of the chair and the members, allow me to make a few manifestations. Mr. Chairman, ABS CBN through its various programs has been a significant part of many Filipinos' lives. For almost 7 decades, ABS CBN has played a role in the Filipino household. It has served as a companion on the ride to and from work, a reprieve for some from their dull and dreary days as they reimagine their lives through the teleseries and movie characters, a primary source of news and information, especially for those with limited or non-existent access to the internet. For several thousands, one that provides an opportunity to earn either through employment or business transactions, and sometimes even to a lucky few, a fairy godmother that makes their wishes and dreams come true. To deprive them of a franchise is tantamount to curtailment of the freedom of expression, a basic right that has been enshrined in our 1987 Constitution precisely because of a similar, though not exactly the same series of events that threatened and derided such freedom of the press. Mr. Chairman, our mandate as Congress is to grant franchises so that public utilities, including broadcast networks, may be allowed to operate. If in the course of their operations, they violated some laws, then let the courts settle this, as that is the mandate of the judiciary, not ours. On the arguments about the corporation being an unjust employer, is our solution then a total shutdown so those employees enjoying proper benefits and salaries would equally lose their jobs? Should we also cancel the franchises of other networks engaging in similar practice, including the government-owned PTV4? We have been crying for unbiased media reporting, yet we complain when news segments go against our favor. This is a time of crisis, Mr. Chairman. We are in the midst of a pandemic that not only caused our health systems numerous problems with a continuously growing number of cases, but has also crippled our economy because of the necessary lockdown that was imposed in most of the country, especially here in the city of Cebu. The government, in its efforts to minimize the economic impact of the pandemic, has designed programs to assist companies to enable them to sustain their operations, thereby generating revenues and keeping employees at their jobs. To shut down an institution that has lasted for 2/3 of a century, one that has contributed greatly to economic activity, both directly and indirectly, would be an incongruent step towards the country's economic recovery. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask that the committee members to really listen to their constituents and to vote according to the dictates of their conscience. I am, however, hoping that this issue can still proceed and be taken up in second reading, on third reading in the plenary, to give opportunity to all of us representatives of the people, to all members of the Committee on Legislative Franchises, and to have our voices also heard and our votes counted, given that this issue is of national importance. And in the end, Mr. Chairman, after everything has been said, for or against the bills seeking the grant of the ABS CBN franchise, this representation from the 2nd District of Cebu City humbly calls on the members of the Committee on Legislative Franchises and the others who are called upon today to render a crucial judgment. Let us pause for a while, bow our heads in humility, close our eyes to our personal biases in order to open and let in a greater vision for our nation, and to seek further erudition and wisdom from the Almighty. And as we examine our conscience, guided by the enlightenment of the divine providence in making a final judicious vote, please ponder and cogitate and ask ourselves questions, talk to our conscience, and make a judgment, a wise and judicious judgment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Maraming salamat, Kong Abel Llanosa. At ngayon naman po, atin pong hearing suspended for a few minutes.